Part 5, Chapter 18. Meanwhile. This is interesting. Gabe has moved his consciousness to the service drone, leaving a ghost copy in the central processing core to keep the ship's primary intelligence occupied. The Peacekeeper software has just encountered some foreign software. Foreign. Instructing it to investigate the mystery, Gabe continues using the drone to explore the interior spaces of the massive warship. The captain will be very interested to hear how well the Peacekeeper software performed, Gabe thinks to himself. The drone creeps along the corridor, avoiding other drones as best it can. Time is of the essence, Gabe tells it. I do not know how long it will take Siege Perilous to realize one of the drones is not accounted for. Now that it is using them in earnest, the Peacekeeper software will only be able to keep me shielded for so long. The drone scampers around a corner and into one of the massive fabrication centers on the ship. The center is idle now, the massive machinery silent, as all drones have been repaired or recycled since the Peacekeeper fleet was attacked. Gabe instructs the Peacekeeper software to isolate the room. It won't be able to hide it from the Dreadnought's main intelligence. Siege Perilous is far too smart for that. Simply masking the sensors, however, could buy Gabe the time he needs. A breathless Monel Farash appears on screen. For those just joining, I'm aboard the Peacekeeper carrier Pax Imperius, on its way to the Barolo Deep Space Sensor Array. I'm told Peacekeeper High Command received an anonymous tip that the mysterious warship that destroyed an entire fleet in the Melandro system is on its way to the sensor array for reasons unknown. She pauses, listening. That's a great question, Megan. I don't think this is related to the unrest on Tarsus, but it's impossible to say for sure. I'm told that the source of the tip, while anonymous, is believed to be reliable. Of course, that's all speculation for now, but Peacekeeper High Command isn't taking any chances, or being overly forthcoming for that matter. Monel Farash listens again, nodding occasionally. Oh yes, definitely. It was lucky I was able to get onto a shuttle heading to the ship. As you know, I've been covering the unrest and just happened to spot several high-ranking Peacekeeper officers leaving the GC Council facility. A pause, and then she laughs. That's true. Before GNO, I was an investigative journalist. Old habits die hard, I guess. Everyone's a critic. The whole team is assembled on the bridge again. Prathia and Zan, seated at their usual temporary stations. Prathia turns to Will. What do we do when we get there? Will shrugs. After all this, I kinda assumed you'd have thought of something. We don't really do the plan thing. He smirks. How not at all reassuring, she says, turning back to her station. The ghost drops out of FTL and vectors toward the station. The Barolo Deep Space Sensor Array is anchored between the orbits of the fourth and fifth planets of the system. There are no inhabited planets in this system, and only one gas giant, the third world. Is it here? Zan asks, from her seat next to Benny's station. Zephyr looks up from her console. It is. She activates a control, and the main display updates, showing the Dreadnought. It's parked alongside and slightly above the massive sensor array complex. Anything from the station? Prathia asks. If I recall, it has a staff of several hundred. Maxim looks at his own display. I think its shields are up. The station, I mean. Why does it have shields? He looks at Prathia. Prathia shrugs. I don't know. I didn't know it did. Seems like it's a good thing, though, she says, gesturing to the screen. All things considered. On the screen, the Dreadnought has begun firing beam weapons at the array. The defensive shields are shimmering with each weapon strike. The reason we're not picking up a distress call is that big monster is jamming comms, Benny says. How do you know that? Will asks, turning to his hacker friend. Because it's jamming us now. Benny taps a control, and the main display updates to a tactical view. A tiny, animated ghost has just begun a big red circle, centered on the Dreadnought. Lovely, Will says, already working the controls. I'll swing us around wide. We can come at it from the other side of the array. Are we stealthed? Yeah, Benny says, cutting Will off. Will winks. I knew you had value, Cheeto thief. Benny tuts and turns back to his console. I suppose we should try to come up with a plan, Will says. Actually, I've been thinking about that, Zephyr offers. It's pretty simple, really. We think Gabe is alive, so we need to get back on that ship. As far as we know, our stealth tech is hiding us from it. Following so far, Will says, motioning for her to go on. We cold coast past the ship, then Maxim and I space jump over and infiltrate. That seems just a bit dangerous, Perthea says, adding, Don't forget, we were on that ship. We saw what it could do. What those drones... Mechanosquid, Will interjects. I'm not saying that word either, Perthea says. Those drones. There are so many. They killed Myrta and possibly your friend. How could you two stand a chance? Everyone's a critic, Will mumbles, but I agree with Perthea. It's firing, Maxim announces. Everyone looks at the main screen as it switches to a view of the kilometers-long dreadnought, which is currently firing missiles. A lot of missiles. At us, Maxim adds helpfully. Well, damn, Will says. Guess it can see us. New plan? He pushes the sublight engine controls forward, accelerating the Ghost and banking hard. Are we charging right at it? Zan asks. Oh, hell no, we're running, Will says. The Ghost arcs wide in front of the oncoming missiles, heading deeper into the star system. Max, get the aft guns up and running, please. On it, the Ghost's de facto weapons officer says. The machinery of the massive fabrication center is rumbling now, as the small service drone scurries around, making adjustments. This must be what Benny feels like, Gabe thinks, waiting for the cooking unit to finish. Thanks to the ever-diligent and surprisingly resourceful Peacekeeper software, the drone housing Gabe Spark is able to keep tabs on what the massive dreadnought is doing. To a limited degree, everything the giant ship sees, Gabe can see, including the Ghost. They came, he thinks. Sending instructions to the Peacekeeper software, Gabe refocuses his efforts on accessing the subsystem he had used before. The small drone scurries out of the room, while Siege Perilous is focused on both attacking the sensor array and the Ghost and trying to eliminate the Peacekeeper software. Gabe has a chance at moving undetected through the less important systems. Interesting, he muses. Cargo bay access is unprotected. Accessing exterior door controls. Threading the needle. The Ghost is zigging and zagging through space, its aft weapons blazing, trying to shoot missiles down before they can catch the small ship and damage its shields. Shield strength down 20%, Zephyr reports from her station, gripping the edges as Will throws the Ghost into a twisting maneuver. Will glances over to Perthea. Anything you can do? He slams the controls over and twists the ship in the opposite direction, just as a missile hits the shields, shaking the ship violently. I'll see what I can do. The stout scientist jumps from her station and races to the hatch. Zan jumps up and follows her. Where's the dreadnought? Will asks. Same place. It hasn't moved, Zephyr reports. I'm picking up hundreds of drones. Mechanosquids, Will interrupts. Hundreds of drones, Zephyr continues, as if she hadn't heard him, moving around the station. Its shields are nearly gone. She looks at her console intently. The ship was not trying to destroy the station. Its weapons are barely half what was fired at us last time we saw it. Benny, can you tell what they're doing? Nope. We're too far off, but... The small hacker holds up a finger. I can guess. That station is robust. Systems are decentralized to avoid damage from space debris or anything else. The ship is trying to take the station, but I don't know why. Okay, let's see if we can't slow it down, Will says, bringing the ship back around toward the sensor array. He can see drones of all sizes crawling around the outside of the station, pulling things apart, tapping into external systems. I've picked up on the station's crew. Looks like they're all together in a central place. Maybe a cargo hold or emergency bunker, Zephyr reports, as the Ghost speeds closer to the station. Will brings the ship in close to the station, giving Maxim an easy angle to blast the small squid-like things, using the Ghost's ample weapons. The missiles, still trailing the ship, spin wide and hit both the drones and the station. As the Ghost corkscrews between sensor dishes and other external structures of the sensor array, a loud bang, followed by the screech of metal on metal, echoes throughout the ship. "I'm sure that wasn't important," Will says, pulling up and bringing the Ghost away from the platform in a wide arc. "Whatever it was." "Shields are recharging," Benny reports. "One more pass, get ready," Will says. The Ghost swings back over the station, as far from the dreadnought as possible. The bridge of the ship shakes from a series of missile impacts. "They won't last long," Benny shouts. Seconds later, the Ghost is roaring away from the sensor platform once again, aft weapons firing on the few remaining missiles still trailing the ship. "Hey, look!" Benny shouts, pointing at the screen. On it, the dreadnought is hovering over the sensor platform. Hundreds of drones are swarming between them. Yeah, we're familiar with the dreadnought, dude," Will says, looking at Benny with raised eyebrows. "No, Krebnak, there!" He points, then tuts, and turns to his console. In the main display, a big green circle appears over a section of the massive warship. In the middle of the circle is a square of white, where a hatch of some type is opening. "What the hell is that?" Will wonders aloud. He brings the ship around on a course closer to the dreadnought. "Careful," Maxim warns. "We know how powerful those guns are." On the screen, the square of white light is more prominent now. Will leans forward, squinting. "Is that a cargo hold?" "It's Gabe!" Benny shouts excitedly. Zephyr looks across the bridge at the hacker bouncing in his seat. "That's a bit of a reach, don't you think?" Benny shakes his head. "No, I mean, it's literally Gabe. I just got another message, like the first one. It says rescue. It's him." Zephyr turns to Will. "Okay, well, we couldn't ask for a more obvious sign," she shrugs. "How do we get there, though? There's no way we can approach without being shot to pieces. Any speed that keeps us from being shot apart means we'd crash right through the back wall of the bay." Will jams the controls hard to one side as two of the larger external defensive drones hurl themselves toward the ship. The report of weapons fire sounds from the aft weapons array. "Two down, a few hundred to go," Maxim says. "Look!" "Dude, we saw it. Big open door, waiting for us to fly in," Will says. Then, "Oh, you mean the fleet of ships that just arrived? That might be what we need." "You think?" Benny replies. "I might have made a call," Zephyr says, smiling.